In March 1953, right after the death of Stalin, President Eisenhower gave this very famous speech called The Chance for Peace. And some of the excerpts, some of it have floated around on Facebook over the years and stuff like that, but it's relevant because we are, you know, I've done stories where we're provoking North Korea, where obviously we've talked about bombing Syria and killing Russian soldiers there, and we're sending, you know, the naval part of the naval fleet close to China and North Korea and Russia, and we're doing all of this stuff. And we have a president that is just a brazen, just he wants to fight with everybody, and we've basically had decades of war. Obama, Bush, Clinton. I mean, everybody wants war. And Eisenhower gave several, you know, very relevant speeches. He's the one who coined the term, he popularized the term, the military-industrial complex. Eisenhower realized, you know, after coming out of World War II, that if we let this military-industrial complex take over, then they're going to always be needing a war. Always going to be needing a war. And then we went to Korea, Vietnam, and on down the line. So this speech, and I think sometimes Eisenhower gets blamed as, oh, he was a general, he was a warmonger, but I think I don't know. I think he sort of knuckled under them a little bit. But he spoke about it, and he talked about how to deal with this. And this isn't like 100% endorsement of, I think Eisenhower was the greatest president ever. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's just some relevant stuff here in this speech that he gave in 1953 that pertains to us today, and it would be great if we had an actual progressive leader that said some of these things. And it goes to what I've talked about, you know, when I did the video about our military budget is, as I said, under Obama, it was about 54% of our budget, almost just under $600 billion, and now Trump wants to add an additional $60 billion. So we're going to be in the $650, $660 billion range for military, which is like over 55% of our budget. And we, as I've said, we spend 3% on social programs, and like that money could go for so many things, like what this guy said. And a real progressive presidential candidate could run on this type of message and win and be president and never lose. A real progressive, be they man, woman, whatever. I'd love to see female president. I'd love to see other presidents from other nationalities and whatever, as long as they're actual progressives. I'm not voting for a minority or a black person or a woman or whatever just because it looks neat, because they're fake progressives that are warmongers. So here's the speech. And I'll put the entire excerpts of the whole speech. It's a long speech, so you can read it below. And I don't know if Rachel Maddow is reading these speeches. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies, in the final sense, a theft from those who hunger and are not fed. Those who are cold and not clothed, this world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children. The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. It's 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 population. It's 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals. It is some 50 miles of concrete highway. We pay for a single fighter plane with 500,000 bushels of wheat. We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people. I would also add, we could have clean water in Flint. This, I repeat, is the best way of life to be found on the road the world has been taking. This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense, under the cloud of threatening war. It is humanity hanging from a cross of iron. These plain and cruel truths define the peril and point the hope that comes with this spring of 1953. This is one of those times in the affairs of nations when the gravest choices must be made. It is there. If there is to be a turning toward a just and lasting peace, it is a moment that calls upon the governments of the world to speak their intentions with simplicity and with honesty. It calls upon them to answer the question that stirs the hearts of all sane men, not Trump. Is there no other way the world may live? Do we want to live in this perpetual state of war? Do we want to live where there isn't drinkable water? Do we want to live where a predominantly white town can vote to deny access of a pipeline, but then a Native American tribe is hit with tear gas and water cannons? Is that the world we want to live in? Do you want to live in a country where oil companies do whatever they want? They build pipelines, they contaminate our water. Do you want to live in a country where they pollute the entire Gulf of Mexico and a guy that in South Carolina runs away from a cop at a routine traffic stop just because he doesn't want to get arrested gets shot in the back? A guy selling illegal cigarettes gets choked to death? Do you want to live in a country like that? Where we're telling kids how to deal with, there's a protocol for when a shooter comes on the school campus? Is that the country we want to live in? Crumbling infrastructure, every time you pass a homeless person, just know that just one of those drone strikes probably could have got that person the health care they needed, because the majority of the homeless are suffering from severe mental illness, and there's no federally funded or state-funded mental hospitals for them. They're dealing with untreated mental illness. I know people with good families, good homes, good health care, and severe mental illness is a challenge to get treated correctly. Let alone if you didn't have it and now you're living on the street. Ask yourself that. Look at that. Look at any time there's something we need. There's a school that just has that has a low graduation rate. There's heavy crime. Just ask yourself. When Brian Williams is like, the beauty of the Tomahawk missile. Thanks, Brian. There goes. That could have been a school. Isn't that beautiful, Brian? That could have given college tuition to everyone. Every one of those rockets. So guys, it's why we on the left, the progressives, need to fight. We don't know how to fight. We haven't been taught how to fight. And I'm not talking about with our fists. I'm talking about fighting for what's right. Any one of you out there who are young, what kind of world do you, as you grow older, what kind of world do you want? Those of you watching this that have children, what kind of world do you want your kids to have? I don't have kids of my own, but I have 6 nieces and nephews. And they're young. One of them's graduating high school. They're entering the world now. This is the world where we care more about a guy gets dragged off a plane and there's people publicly supporting the airline. Oh man, that guy probably had it coming. All of our institutions are corrupt and they're supporting this thing. Every time you see something that could use a little money to help fix it, know that the military got that money, got the majority of it. Know that if we just had a couple less bombers, a couple less drones, that problem could be fixed. And don't back down from this. Don't sit there and say, oh, well, lesser of two evils. We got to back the them. I mean, they're okay. No to warmongers. And know that there's a lot of warmongers in the Democratic Party. And there's a lot of fake progressives wrapping themselves in a peace and a rainbow flag and talking about how great everything is and how equality and blah, blah, blah. But they support this shit. And hold the fucking corporate media responsible for not talking about this and celebrating war. The corporate media is the state-run media every time there's a war. Vote with your dollars. Don't back down. And hold these assholes accountable. because this is what they're taking away from us, with 55 or more % of the budget going for war. I don't want to live in this like this. It's awful. And there's something we can all do. Thanks for supporting the show.